While we have been telling you all that's happening in Bangladesh, let's now tell you what's happening in India over the turmoil in Bangladesh. Demonstrations have escalated in India over the lynching of Hindu youth, Dipu Das, in Bangladesh. And today, there was a massive demonstration outside Bangladesh High Commission led by VHP and Bajrang Dal as anger spilled out on the streets. Demonstrators were seen breaking barricades and burning effigies. Security right now has been tightened and beefed up at the High Commission, and police lathi-charged to disperse the crowd at various locations, not just in New Delhi, but in other states as well. Remember, there have been a series of demonstrations all over India. That's over Dipu Das's death in Bangladesh. 25-year-old Dipu was lynched to death in Dhaka in an alleged blasphemy case. And today, there were demonstrations in Kolkata, Jammu, Hyderabad, and several other cities. Well, there is no direct evidence that Dipu Chandra Das made any remark hurting anyone's religious sentiment. Meanwhile, Bangladesh has summoned its Indian envoy over security concerns that's concerning its missions in New Delhi.
और बाकी सारी यहाँ जितने लोग पहुँचे हुए हैं वो सभी कड़े शब्दों में उसकी निंदा करते हैं। ये नहीं होना चाहिए कि इंसान को जिंदा जलाना, ये तो इस दुनिया में सबसे बड़ा अत्याचार है जो हिंदुओं में हो रहा है। और हम ही सभी हिंदुओं को दें जो
महिलाएं यहाँ पर इस वक्त इकट्ठी हुई हैं, महिलाओं में भी ये सेंटिमेंट है कि वहाँ पे जो महिलाओं के साथ हो रहा है वो भी बेहद गलत है।
हाँ जी, बहुत गलत है, बहुत गलत हो रहा है, ये सब
गलत है, बहुत ज्यादा।
ये गलत होना ही नहीं चाहिए, बहुत गलत हो रहा है,
उनको सजा मिलनी चाहिए, इसलिए कि हम उसके अत्याचार के खिलाफ है।
इस भारत को हमने सन 1971 में आज़ादी दिलाया, वही बांग्लादेश, हाँ, जिस बांग्लादेश को हमने सन 1971 में आज़ादी दिलाया, वही बांग्लादेश आज हमारे हिंदुओं के ऊपर अत्याचार कर रहा है।
No one thing that in Bangladesh, minority communities, they are in a deep danger, and we urge the Indian government that Indian government should intervene here, and they must ensure the safety and security of the minorities in Bangladesh.
If we do not take an action today, because this is a repeated thing which is happening in history, they wanted a Sharia law, but the demands will not be fulfilled from here. It has to go on the international agencies. Jihadi Yusuf Zai got a Nobel Peace Prize because his only military and police handed over Dipu to the jihadi mindset, radical Islamists there. So he is involved in it.
700 meters away from the Bangladesh High Commission, where the VHP, that is the Vishwa Hindu Parishad, has been protesting. They have broken 2 layers of barricadings. As of it, we can clearly see the kind of the kind of security that can be seen here. The Delhi police forces and the paramilitary forces have in fact kept 4 layers of barricading every few meters so that the protesters can be stopped here. Clearly, the people are quite agitated over the situation of Hindus in Bangladesh. They have said that this needs to be stopped and the government needs to take some action towards what has happened in Bangladesh. They are carrying the posters and placards here where they have clearly said that the kind of situation of Hindus in Bangladesh is quite worrying, and that something should be done, and this situation should be in fact contained there. Many of the people have brought the effigies of Bangladesh in their hands and are currently trying to in fact also burn the effigies here at the Chanakapuri area where the protest is in fact right now going on. We'll also try to talk to some of the people who are right here protesting. Sir, आपका नाम क्या है?
रमन भारद्वाज।
जिस तरीके से आप लोग प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे हैं, क्या कुछ मांगे हैं आपकी?
देखिए, सबसे पहली मांग तो ये है कि हिंदुओं का पे जो अत्याचार हो रहा है उसको रोका जाए, उसके ऊपर एक्शन लिया जाए। कहीं भी किसी इस तरह का प्रदर्शन हो रहा है तो उस पर साथ दें, सरकार हमारा साथ दे। हम कोई हत्या करने नहीं आए हैं, वहाँ पे तो हत्या हो गई है, हिंदुओं की हत्या हो रही है।
The protesters are trying to break the second layer of barricading here. They are constantly trying to march towards the Bangladesh High Commission. They have marched from the very end of this road and have in fact reached here very near, very close to the Bangladesh High Commission. We'll also try to show you the visuals of what is currently happening here, the kind of visuals that can be seen here. Massive protest that has been going on, and the people here, the people from the Vishwa Hindu Parishad, clearly asking for justice over what has happened in Bangladesh, the lives of Hindus that was in fact lost there. They're asking that the government should take necessary steps to ensure that the Hindu population in Bangladesh is safeguarded, and the situation should not be seen again where the Hindus living in Bangladesh should be targeted like this, like what has happened here.
See, first layer of barricade has already been broken. We'll continuously keep on showing you the visuals so as to give the viewers sense so as to what is happening here on ground zero and talk about the current situation as well here in India, in national capital, about the protest, and also so as to what was happening there in Bangladesh. You can see that they are continuously protesting. First layer of barricading was broken. This is the second layer of barricading which has been done over here, which could be broken at any point of time because the police, the Delhi police is continuously, trying to stop them. But the manner in which the protest is taking place seems like, it will not stop, because again we'll be showing you the visuals so as to show these visuals. The police is trying to push them back from this particular area, but now they seem to be very much adamant for the kind of videos that are emerging out. We saw that how it was quite a chilling video of the assault that went viral of none other than Dipu Chandra. We saw that how hundreds of individuals were, lynching him. He was burnt, he was hanged on a tree, and then he was burnt, he was assaulted and later killed on. The mob then tied his body to a tree and then burned it. It was something which is completely inhuman. Several groups are also criticizing the manner, political parties as well, the manner in which this entire incident unfolded. But in fact, also remember, if we talk about what is currently happening here in the national capital, remember that these are the continuous protests, that the protest call given by Vishwa Hindu Parishad for the kind of atrocities that are taking place. Once again, we'll give a 360-degree view so as to what is happening over here. These are the visuals of my right-hand side and those are the visuals of my left-hand side. These are the visuals of the police personnel who have been deployed over here. If you can come over here and show the visuals as to what kind of deployment is made over here. These are the police personnel, the CRPF Jawans who have been deployed. And on the front, you can also see there's the flag of Vishwa Hindu Parishad, that they have been, the flag of Vishwa Hindu Parishad, and in fact, the Tiranga as well. They have been raising their voice against the atrocities that have been taking place there in Bangladesh.
Well, and the Vishwa Hindu Parishad demonstrated outside the Bangladesh consulate in Kolkata. My colleague Shreyasi has sent us this report.
Well, we are outside the Deputy High Commission, Bangladesh High Commission here in Kolkata. There was a protest that was ongoing. Now they have been pushed back by the police after a lathi-charge broke out between the protesters and the police. And of course, this is with regards to the situation in Bangladesh and the attack on the minorities there, and that is why they have come out in large numbers to protest in front of the Bangladesh Deputy High Commissioner's office to ensure that their voices are heard and they can, protest against the barbaric kind of act that has taken place. The protesters have come out in large numbers to protest against the atrocities in Bangladesh. ये जो आप लोग प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे हैं और पुलिस भी आप लोग को रोक लगा रहे हैं, क्या कहना है?
देखिए, बांग्लादेश में जैसे अल्पसंख्यक हिंदू के ऊपर उत्पीड़न शोषण हो रहा है, उसके विरोध में हम लोग जा रहे थे जब हाई कमीशन के दफ्तर के, और तब कोलकाता पुलिस ने जैसे हमारे ऊपर लाठीचार्ज किया, ये शर्मनाक है। अब देखिए कैसे हमारे कार्यकर्ता के ऊपर ऐसे बर्बरचित अटैक किया गया है। इसके विरोध में हम अगले दिन भी बांग्लादेश हाई कमीशन जब तक इसको वीसा बंद नहीं हो तब तक यहाँ पे हम लोग बैठे रहेंगे।
And they are saying that they will continue the protest till the time the Bangladesh Deputy High Commission doesn't stop issuing visas here in Kolkata. They will remain here on the streets, raising their voice against the atrocities against the Hindus. But of course, this is a very sensitive area as well. There are schools at a stone's throw away from here. There are mosques that are located. This is a minority-dominated area in Kolkata. So the police apprehend there could be a law and order situation which they are trying to avoid as much as possible, because at one point the protesters attacked the police and the police had to resort to lathi charge to disperse the crowd. Now they've been pushed back under the flyover to ensure that the traffic flow begins and there is no untoward incident while these protests are taking place here in the city.
Well, there are demonstrations happening in multiple areas across India. We have been getting you those visuals. And next up, my colleague Pradeep reports from Jammu.
Another protest against Bangladesh and Bangladeshi government here in Jammu. They are protesting against Muhammad Yunus. They are feeling it is because of the connivance of administration there in Bangladesh that Hindus are being targeted, and also Indian narrative is being built so that the Indians can also be targeted. It is because of the government here that Islamist radical elements are having a field day and they are calling shots. And here you can see they are raising slogans, they're holding tricolor in their hand, they're raising slogans against Muhammad Yunus. And here you can see, let me show you the picture of Muhammad Yunus being garlanded with chappals, sandals and shoes, and they are saying that he is the one who is trying to vitiate atmosphere. He is the one who has allowed Pakistan's inter-service intelligence to intrude in Bangladesh. It is because of that reason that today the anti-India sentiment has built up, and today the Hindus are being targeted. Only few days back we saw that one Hindu youth was lynched and later on he was burnt, and right now also the protest is going on here in the heart of Jammu city. They are protesting, they are raising slogans, and they are raising slogans. So the protest continuing. Earlier we saw there was a protest by Bar Association. Now you can say the protest by the Dogra Sangathan. And see, the reason is obvious, because here people are quite agitated. People in India are quite angry. The way they are treating Hindus, the way their atrocities and persecution of the Hindus is continuing. And this process started when basically Sheikh Hasina's government was ousted and she had to finally flee to Indian side. Since then, the Hindus are being targeted. So they demand, one, the safety and security of Hindus, and second, they want Rohingyas to be sent back, and they want all diplomatic ties and trade ties with Bangladesh need to be snapped.
All right, we have some breaking news coming in for you at this point of time. Dipu Chandra Das's family is the Hindu man who was lynched in Bangladesh. His family is now on the streets. They are seeking justice with the regular targeting of Hindu minorities and the government's failure to act. The international community must take notice of the persecution of minorities in Bangladesh. Demonstrations broke out in Pabna, Bangladesh, to demand justice for Dipu Chandra Das. Hindu groups in Bangladesh are assuring Dipu Das's family, who are now out on the streets seeking justice for the killing of Dipu Chandra Das, that the Hindus in Bangladesh are with them. For more on this, my colleague Saurabh is now joining me live. Saurabh, what more can you tell us? Dipu Chandra Das's family out on the streets demanding justice, but it looks like the unrest, the mayhem in Dhaka, it doesn't seem to be coming to an end at this point of time.
Well, clearly the Muhammad Yunus-led interim government seems to have very little control on what the extremist, hardline, radical elements are doing in Bangladesh. And that's one of the reasons why you see this kind of mayhem unfolding on the streets of Dhaka and other parts of the country as well. Now, I was just going through some figures and they're shocking. Just this year alone, there have been more than 500 incidents of communal violence, including over 50 murders of religious minorities. And these have taken place across the country. In the first 3 weeks of December alone, 5 members of the minority communities were brutally killed. These include the murder of gold merchant Prantosh Karmakar in Raipura, Narsingdi. On December 2, fish trader Utpal Sarkar in Salfa, Faridpur. Then, of course, Jogesh Chandra Roy, who was a freedom fighter, and his wife, Shubarna Roy, in Taraganj, Rangpur. And then, of course, the barbaric killing of garment worker Dipu Chandra Das in Bhaluka, in Mymensingh, in Bangladesh. So, these are incidents, and this has been put out by the Bangladesh Hindu Buddhist Christian Unity Council. So, this is a multi-faith body that speaks up for the rights of minorities, and that's the kind of government that Muhammad Yunus is leading, which has emboldened the extremist, radical Islamist elements.
Right.
You know, he's, of course, released terrorists from jail, and that is, of course, leading to this chaos unfolding on the streets of Dhaka. And, well, it also, unfortunately, comes before elections are scheduled there. But if elections are delayed because of the violence, who stands to gain? One, the Jamaat-e-Islami Bangladesh, the Islamist radical force. And secondly, perhaps Muhammad Yunus himself, who gets to also prolong his stay in power. At least that's what critics of Muhammad Yunus are saying.
Right, Saurabh. Just to add to that, just this morning itself, Yunus spoke to a US envoy to India, and he clearly lamented there that the elections will take place on time in Bangladesh. But thanks for sharing us the updates. But stay with us, Saurabh, stay with us. We'll come back to you in a short while from now. And while we've been getting you the latest of all that's happening in India, let's now tell you what's happening in Bangladesh amid massive demonstrations on the streets of Dhaka. Bangladesh interim chief Mohammad Yunus has reaffirmed his commitment to holding elections on the 12th of February, saying that the country was determined to restore democratic rights that had been stolen by an autocratic regime. Days after the death of prominent Bangladeshi youth leader Sharif Usman bin Hadi, which triggered widespread unrest in the country, another leader was shot at in the head yesterday. And well, the former Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has slammed the Yunus regime and said that the lawlessness has multiplied under Yunus. Amid the ongoing turmoil, Mohammad Yunus chaired a high-level meeting to review the country's security situation. Now, during the meeting, officials discussed the arrest and the ongoing investigation in the Hadi case, with emphasis on ensuring a transparent and speedy probe. Let's now give you a lowdown of all that's happening in Bangladesh right now as the turmoil continues and there seems to be no end to the unrest there in the country. First up, the latest is that Bangladesh, Dhaka, has suspended visa and consular services in multiple cities in India. Second, Bangladesh this morning summoned the Indian envoy, that's Pranay Verma, and this is after there were a slew of demonstrations taking place in India. 10 have been arrested, at least 10 arrested in Usman Hadi murder. Remember, Usman Hadi is the radical leader, the death of which sparked widespread demonstrations in Dhaka. Then, apart from the 10 arrests regarding Usman Hadi's murder, the second aspect is that 17 arrests have been made after vandalism at Pratham Olo and Daily Star. These are some of the leading media houses there in Dhaka. Now, apart from that, in India, today, demonstrations erupted in various cities in India over Hindu man's lynching, that's over Dipu Chandra Das's killing. And like we were talking about here on the show, Mohammad Yunus has spoken to US envoy to India over phone. And during that conversation, Yunus has clearly asserted or rather outlined that Dhaka will go to polls on time. That's on the 12th of February. Well, Saurabh has been tracking this story very closely here for us. Saurabh, at this point of time, with all that's happening in Bangladesh, how do you see the situation panning out? Yunus says that elections will take place next year in the month of February. But do you think that's a realistic statement given out by Yunus at a time when the conditions are in a bad condition there in Dhaka?
Well, you know, Mohammad Yunus is not just facing criticism for his handling of Bangladesh and currently this specific situation in Bangladesh, not just from India. There is also criticism from within the country. The BNP's Secretary General, Mirza, the leader who's of course in charge of the BNP's affairs in Bangladesh, has clearly said it's the failure of the Yunus government. That's in a statement today, this morning. So it is not just from India that he's facing criticism. There is criticism from within for his handling of this situation and allowing this kind of law and order situation and causing mayhem on the streets of Dhaka and other cities. Secondly, Bangladesh is, sort of toning down or curtailing these visa centers seems more like an afterthought, because remember, in Chittagong, in Dhaka, there have been violent protests outside the Indian mission, and the cops have not been able to create a sense of security. In India, yes, there have been protests, but in nowhere in these incidents have people gone even close to the High Commission. Those have been some distance away. So that seems as an afterthought, because India has also, of course, shut down visa application centers, etc. Now, when it comes to elections, remember on the 25th, Tariq Rahman, Bangladesh former Prime Minister Khaleda Zia's son and her political heir and the acting chairperson of the BNP, returns to the country after 17 years in exile. BNP is the front runner in these elections, and therefore there is, many believe, also an attempt to delay the elections, because the other party, which also many believe has the support of Yunus, which is the Jamaat-e-Islami Bangladesh, and the NCP, are simply not prepared with the electoral machinery that is required to fight an election. So These are the things that are playing out on the ground. There are multiple conspiracy theories also doing the rounds, but obviously the timing of these protests and the timing of the killing of Sharif Osman Hadi and also the others are definitely seemingly part of a larger plan and not as spontaneous as they may seem or as the government may claim.
Right, Saurabh. Just a follow-up question. Of course, there have been demonstrations taking place in India over the Hindu man's lynching in Bangladesh, but they're pretty much under control. There have been no barricades which have been breached. I want to talk to you about the anti-India narrative, which is now being peddled by Bangladesh at this point of time, and how there has been no action taken on the persecution of minorities in Dhaka so far, which was also a point raised by Dipu Chandra's family.
Well, yes, I mean, in many political circles in Bangladesh, the conversation is about how the clearly visible, quote-unquote, Pakistan hand in all of this. And Muhammad Yunus has made no qualms about cozying up to Pakistan at the cost of the historic relationship with India. Now, many are saying that the high-level Pakistani military visits and perhaps the presence of ISI officials in Dhaka is all aimed at whipping up this anti-India sentiment so that there is some way to distract attention from Yunus's own failings, and the law and order situation is also being caused, many say, by these radical elements who, of course, have been given a free hand. For example, a terrorist, Jashimuddin Rahmani, who has Al-Qaeda sympathies, who is a supporter of the Al-Qaeda in the subcontinent, has been freed by the Yunus government. So what do you expect to play out on the streets? And that's where this whole anti-India voices, calls for dismembering India's northeast part. Yunus's own statement in China about India's northeast, it all started from there. So yes, I mean, the anti-India rhetoric, the anti-India direction in which Muhammad Yunus wants to lead Bangladesh to is quite clear from the day he took power.